Hi, I am Heather Slusser, the agriculture educator in Marathon County. Today, I am joined by Dr. Victor Cabrera, a dairy systems management specialist in the Department of Animal and Dairy Sciences, and Ted Hallbach, a faculty associate in the Department of Animal and Dairy Sciences. Today, they will speak with us about the fact sheet that they co-authored entitled Using DairyCOMP 305 to Assess the Potential Impact of Heat Stress on a Dairy. Ted, could you speak with us about why this topic is so important to you?
Absolutely, Heather. When I was a senior in high school, I moved to Arizona, where my family had a dairy farm. In a place like that, obviously, you experience heat stress. When I moved back to Wisconsin, I was really surprised to see the impact of heat stress. The Midwest does have heat stress that takes place. And I've learned is that not everybody is able to identify quantitatively how much it affects their operation. I really thought that there was an opportunity that we could pull together a how-to, use these commands that we've laid out in the fact sheet and begin that investigation. Once you identify that there are heat stress losses, the next question is there a payback to the heat abatement opportunities that can be implemented? And to really determine that, you need to look at the financial implications. And nobody better than Victor Cabrera to be able to put the numbers to these problems.
Dr. Cabrera, so as Ted mentioned, you are the man to put the numbers with the heat loss. Could you explain to us what the economic impact really is for heat loss?
Sure, Heather. Thanks for the opportunity here. We do know that heat stress has a high economic impact on the dairy industry. We need to see the trade-off of mitigation strategies against the real loss we encounter with these heat stress problems on cows. I would like to talk in general, and this depends a lot on the data available to somehow quantify these losses that are very important for decision making. Basically, I split the losses in three main areas. One is in the milk production or the price of the milk being produced. Another area is in the reproduction management of the farm and its impact. And finally, another important area is how heat stress will impact the health of the animals and what's the cost of that. I'm pretty sure there are more areas. And also I'm aware that some of these areas will overlap a little bit. So we need to be careful when we do these calculations as a reference point. They will not be exact, but it will give a good idea what the value loss is. If we talk about milk production, it is clear if we look at the records, if we compare the summer months with the rest of the months of the year, that's an easy way visually and actually with the numbers to find out how much is the loss of milk during that time. And we can find out on average every single cow will produce 5 pounds less during summer months. So if we know the milk price and the feed cost, and let's put some prices, like for example the milk price at $16 or $20 per hundredweight and the feed cost at 12 cents per pound, we can easily calculate what is the marginal cost of that milk not being produced. Because we may expect about 2.4 pounds of milk for every pound of feed. Based on that calculation, at $16 price of milk and $12 pound of feed, for every loss of pound of milk, we will expect about 11 cents of income loss on the farm. And if we multiply that by the number of cows, and during the period of summer, like 90 days, for example, we can easily find out what's that loss of value. The milk price will depend on the components. One important component of that is fat, another is protein, but we know heat stress will impact greatly fat content of the milk. About 30% of the fat could be depressed because of the heat stress. So if we just multiply that number by the price per pound of fat, we can easily find out what is the final loss of that. If we move on quickly to the reproduction side, there are several ways we can calculate that, but one simplified proposition would be to just see how much the pregnancy rate decreases during summer. DairyCOMP and other systems will easily give you that information. We do have on my website, Dairy Management at the University of Wisconsin, a decision support tool that easily allows the user to enter what's the pregnancy rate during summer, what's the pregnancy rate at other times of the year, and it can give you a dollar value, and it will consider all the impacts that the change in reproduction will make up on the herd. And finally, another important area of losses is the health. There are many affections that will come up with the heat stress, but we can summarize on the most important, mastitis. And this will come in the two forms, whether it is clinical or subclinical mastitis. And actually, the data in DairyCOMP and other systems will give you a good indication how that changed during the summer period and how is the impact in the incidence or the number of cases of clinical mastitis. On average, every cow will lose about $286 when it is affected by clinical mastitis. If we look at the clinical mastitis before and during summer, we can actually easily find out what's the value of that loss because of the heat stress. At the subclinical level, we do know the milk losses are about 88 to 132, whether they are primiparous or multiparous, pounds per day for every doubling of the somatic cell count from 50,000. So if you have a 50,000 somatic cell count, you would not have any loss. If that doubles to 100, we will be losing 88 pounds on primiparous cows and 132 pounds on multiparous cows. And that will double at 200. We can use that as a good reference to calculate what's the loss of milk, and we can calculate the value of that milk being lost. And finally, another affection of the heat stress would be ketosis. On average, a cow affected by ketosis will lose about $129 per event. So if we calculate the change in events, we can find out the final value of that. If we put all together, you can see it's a large amount, and there is a good incentive to improve anything we can do to decrease its impact.
Thank you both for being with me today and sharing all of this valuable information.